Good afternoon, my friends. Grim here. I hope all is well. Welcome to Perusing Premodern, number 2, this one featuring Pit Rack, so named for Bottomless Pit, and the Rack, or Mono Black Pox, whatever you want to call it. It is an all-in depletion deck with all kinds of discard and then permanents that generate repeated attrition and eventually take over the game and kill the opponent. So, I will just want to say thank you before I begin the deck tech to everybody who's been involved with this. I've had a really warm reception from viewers for the Premodern overview video, as well as for the first gameplay and deck tech video, excuse me. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy this one as well. And of course, above all, thank you to all Patreon supporters, the wonderful people in our community. You know, the one downside, so far the only downside to me of Premodern, is that you cannot necessarily easily find games at any given time. That is why I'm extra grateful for the people in my sphere who have decided to learn the format with me and indeed play against me for this and for other videos. Today we are bringing Pit Rack against 3 awesome guys, 3 excellent players. We're going against Fjord in the Dark Ritual, black-based mid-range mirror on Deadguy Ale. We're going against Guy on the Solution, the red, white, and blue control deck with some creatures that can turn the corner quickly, and we're going against Mirabito on Goblins, so it's going to be a good time. And let me do a little bit of a deck tech for you before we get into the matches so you know exactly what we're wielding on this side of the table. Pox is a mono black list, and let's begin with the land base, which is a massive strength. We're running 12 swamps, the glorious John Avon art from Urza's Saga. Almost said Urza's Legacy. It is Urza's Saga. And the utility lands number 10, slightly outnumbered by the swamps, and rich in power. We have 2 copies of Cabal Pit. You better believe we're going to get a Threshold with all that interaction we bring to bear. This is a removal spell for weenies once Threshold is attained. Wasteland, of course, and Mishra's Factory, 4 ofs needing no introduction, even to somebody like me who's newer to the format. Now, this is a Dark Ritual deck, as already mentioned. Talking about Dark Ritual makes me want to jump ahead to the top end. So we have 4 copies of Dark Ritual, also 3 copies of Plague Spitter, 4 copies of Bottomless Pit. These are the premier turn 1 ritual targets, at least pre-board. Bottomless Pit basically sums up everything the deck is about. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player discards a card at random, 1BB enchantment. You get this down turn 1, you're working on the hand in ways that are completely unpredictable, very difficult to stop, and progress us toward our ultimate goal of running the opponent out of resources and then killing them with an uncontested creature or something like the Rack. Speaking of uncontested creatures, like I said, Plague Spitter is the other premier Dark Ritual mainboard target. For turn 1, you power this guy out as a 2/2 on T1. At the beginning of the upkeep, he deals 1 damage to each creature, and each player also has that same exact effect when he dies. Thus, not only a thing to turn sideways when you've totally run the opponent out of answers, but a good way to control the board. Go-wide strategies, I think, could in theory be a thorn in the side for this deck, but if you're finding your Plague Spitter main deck, maybe not so much. Speaking of go-wide strategies, let's go back down to the bottom of the list where we look at Innocent Blood. We don't play many creatures. The only ones main deck are Plague Spitter and Mishra's Factory. Usually, of course, Factory will not be active when we're casting an Innocent Blood, so it's usually 1 mana removal, asymmetrical. And on top of that, very good at getting around things like Protection or Shroud or other powerful effects that otherwise the color black can struggle to answer. Of course, the downside is if you're not disrupting your opponent sufficiently, they vomit out their hand. They only lose their worst creature. They continue beating you down. But Innocent Blood, very good in this deck. Funeral Charm can be removal as well. This is a modal spell, 1 mana instant speed Black Charm from Visions, one of the coolest cards in the deck. In a deck filled with cool cards, this is instant speed discard is the first mode, so you can hit somebody with this on their draw step, force them to discard whatever they just drew if they're in top deck mode, or if you're trying to just work on a big hand, you can end step it against a control deck just for a little bit of attrition while you're holding up other effects as well. Like I said, this can be removal. Target creature gets +2/-1 until end of turn. This mode is very useful. Number 1, it kills X1s. 1 mana at instant speed. That's very good. When it's modal, that would be good enough. But it also can pump your X2s to help them get over the line. Plague Spitter and Mishra's Factory, once again, those are our threats. They both survive a Funeral Charm. If you're trying to get over the line against a black deck, you can also give Swamp Walk. In addition to everything we just said, in conjunction with things like the Plague Spitter damage and Engineered Plague out of the sideboard, Funeral Charm can actually kill X2s or even X3s if you put all of those things together. Moving on, still in the 1 mana category, we have 4 copies of Duress, a police card of the format, pretty self-explanatory. Only 2 copies of Cabal Therapy. You might think that, like, 4 Therapy, one of the most powerful cards, one of the first names on the list here. Not so much. It's just like you're okay 1-for-1ing them with your spells. You don't necessarily want to 0-for-1 by whiffing with Therapy, and you also don't necessarily have all the creatures in the world to flashback, right? So it's just kind of one of those that seem to be a higher risk, higher reward proposition, and thus don't necessarily form the bulk of the list, but rather form a supplementary part. That makes me want to jump ahead to Unmask, which serves a similar role, but in a slightly different way to Therapy. This is either a slow 1-for-1 discard spell, or you 2-for-1 yourself in order to cast it for free, to really strip the opponent of their crucial effects early on. You probably can't afford to play 4 copies of either Therapy or Unmask. The pilot building this has split the difference between them, 2 and 2. I don't know if you want many more effects than that, but certainly they're very good at what they do. Rounding out the 1 mana suite for discard spells is a Singleton Blackmail, which is just delightful. You can actually discard land cards with Blackmail, and that's what makes it not strictly worse than anything else. Target player reveals 3, you choose 1, that player discards that card. In a deck that's just playing like 4 Duress and not much else for discard, you wouldn't play a Blackmail. But in a deck like this one that is consistently getting the opponent so low on cards that Blackmail can become like the best turn 2 or turn 3 discard spell you can imagine, then we're really talking. Here in the artifacts, again, these all still just cost 1, so the deck is really lean and mean. We have 4 copies each of the Rack and of Cursed Scroll. Rack is the finisher. It's going to ping the opponent at their upkeep before they get to draw, hopefully for 3 every time because you've emptied their hand totally. Cursed Scroll is good board control or finisher depending on your needs, and this actually behooves you for doing the symmetrical depletion thing, like cards like Bottomless Pit or Chain of Smog can lead to, or even 2-for-1ing yourself with Cabal Therapy or Unmask. Cursed Scroll, getting your hand nice and empty, means that you don't necessarily have to do the coin flip thing or the guessing game. You can have deterministic scroll activations in the mid to late game where it really takes over. Chain of Smog is a 2 of 2 mana, target player discards 2 cards, that player can copy it and choose a new target for the copy. Of course, the idea is that you're either 2-for-1ing them straight up, or it is good for you. If they want to copy it, then you get to copy it back and everybody's out of cards and that benefits you. So there are situations, I'm sure, where this won't necessarily be the best play to make, even if it's one of the more obvious ones. You know, it can definitely bite you, but it's a really unique card, really high ceiling, and more often than not going to be just what we need. That's the main deck, guys. That's what Pit Rack or Pox is up to. In the sideboard, 4 Phyrexian Negator. I don't fully understand this card. I'm assuming it is against decks that don't play red spells and don't play creatures, and we're probably thinking of combo and redless control decks where you'd want to go fast. You can turn this out. It's a 5/5 trample. Obviously, that's a fantastic clock for this type of format, and the downside is whenever it's dealt damage, you sacrifice that many permanents. So a racing card, I presume. If anyone wants to give me a little more intel on Negator, please do so in the comments below. Dystopia, cumulative upkeep, pay 1 life, an enchantment for 1 BB. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a green or white permanent. Seems really good against, like, Enchantress and just enchantments in general. They're often in those colors. We don't have answers to them once they hit the field, except for Dystopia. Obviously good against creature decks that play those colors as well. Engineered Plague, classic card. It's in every black deck sideboard that I've ever seen in this format, and its use cases are obvious. Perish, 2 generic 1 black sorcery, destroy all green creatures. They can't be regenerated. Every card just looks so cool with the old border, by the way. That use case is quite obvious. Planar Void, this is kind of the Rest in Peace or Leyline of the Void type option for this format. Again, obvious use case. And then Ensnaring Bridge. I don't think the use cases for this card are quite as obvious in the games that you're about to see. I actually wasn't sure whether or not to side it in at least one time. Possibly more times than that, right? That's a card that is not always necessarily exactly obvious that you need it, but can play a role against most creature-based decks, right? Even ones that have a more tertiary creature attacking plan, or ones that can win the late game even if they don't get ahead on board. It's definitely a nice option to reach for. And finally, Phyrexian Furnace, more supplementary graveyard hate, and I actually really like this instant speed exile a card, draw a card, activated ability, because when you're getting depleted by your own bottomless pits and other such things, or even if you're in a discard mirror, being able to do that at instant speed rather than just drawing only to have to discard it is big game. So the timing, the sequencing, they synergize nicely with the deck in addition to just being more graveyard hate. So that is my take. As always, take it with a grain of salt because I am learning Premodern right here with you, but that's my take on this wonderful deck. The final thing I'll say about it is that this jumped out to me right away. Right away when I looked at the format, it seemed absurdly powerful. So let's see how it does in games. Thank you for watching. Let's get into it. Good afternoon, my friend. I'm against the mighty Fjord. And we're on the draw. Fjord gonna go ahead and keep 7. This is a Dark Ritual Mirror. This is a black-based mid-range mirror. This is Deadguy versus Pox. Our hand's medium, but we'll keep it. We don't want to maul in this type of matchup. Obviously, double Cabal Therapy with no way to actually see the hand's a little bit rough. And he could do the high value like Ritual Phyrexian Arena T1 play. He doesn't. Okay, that's fair. So because there's no Ritual, I'm not too afraid of a Ritual off the top into Arena, let's just put it that way. So I'm just going to make a play Curse Scroll rather than a Blind Therapy that could whiff. Next turn, if he doesn't do anything, and if we don't draw anything relevant, then maybe we will go for the Blind Therapy. He's going to start off with a Duress. That was clearly the top deck. That's going to take one of our therapies. Just got maybe a little bit more incentive to use the one that we have. And yeah, so basically our hand's medium, but potentially serviceable. Just afraid of Phyrexian Arena more than anything, I think. Oh, but we got Blackmail? Interesting, interesting. I have absolutely never thought about how Blackmail and Cabal Therapy work together. So this is actually something I'm going to take just a quick second to think about. Because on the one hand, we need to consider whether there's anything we care more about, potentially, than Arena, which, I mean, Hypnotic Spectre would be pretty rough. Then again, we can Blackmail and guarantee some kind of a hit with Therapy. So I guess we'll start with Blackmail, see what he shows us, and obviously if he has, like, third land, Phyrexian Arena, those are the 2 cards he's probably going to hide. So I really wish this was just a Duress, right? But, okay, Swamp. I'm not going to take that Swamp away, I don't think. Alright, so he's on a hand that doesn't make white. Still not going to take the Swamp away, even though it could be the third. Yeah, I think I'm just going to take Angel and then Therapy Verdict, because that's a little bit more likely than Angel to be a multiple of, and then hope he doesn't go Swamp Arena, or Swamp Spectre. And we're playing the long game. Just got one, and he does have Swamp Spectre, or Wasteland Spectre. Okay. So not as bad as Phyrexian Arena, but still kind of bad. Fascinating turn, guys. I love this format. Really do. So his hand is Wasteland, 1 unknown. Bottomless Pit, let's go. Alright. Is that actually better than playing Plague Spitter, though? It definitely does a lot of what we need to do in this matchup. I think I'm supposed to get it down. And then we can take care of the Spectre with Cursed Scroll, potentially. This upcoming turn, even. We'll see what else he's got. Down goes our Spitter. Alright, so I think I'm supposed to just let this happen. We could scroll in response, but we could also scroll based on what we draw. Or do something else if that something else is better. And it's just a good old swamp off the top. Never the worst, really, to draw more lands when under Bottomless Pit, I suppose. We get a Plow out of Fjord's End. He finds an Untuko Shade, which is going to die to Bottomless, or to Cursed Scroll this turn before he can untap and have the pump up. Wow, what a draw. Oh my god, okay. So we ping here. So we name the wreck, and then we get to play the wreck? My goodness. Fjord passing is interesting here. Funeral Charm seems like another really good draw. I think we're supposed to let Bottomless Pit take care of his hand, and then Funeral Charm on the draw step, but scroll first. We miss out on 1 damage from the rack that way. But I think it's the move. Alright, so first he'll... sorry, we get to control the discard, so that's even better. So he takes 3, then we go to his draw step. Then we scroll him for 2. Naming Funeral Charm. And then we're going to make him discard whatever he drew. So technically, Fjord could have ritualed in response. Obviously, not really going anywhere with that. But I just like to remember the instant speed, because it seems like something you always do at sorcery speed. Trying to think mostly of, like, pump responses and stuff in a situation where we're not in such command. Ooh, just a swamp off the top. Unlucky, man. Still no white either. We've obviously gotten rid of a white land with one of the discards. Okay, that was a racking. That was a pit racking, a poxing, however you prefer to conceive of it. That is what it was. So, we have a lot of cards, I think, that are kind of okay. Like, I think you could play Ensnaring Bridge and it'd be fine. I think you could play maybe Phyrexian Furnace and it'd be fine, even if we're not that afraid of the graveyard, just because it's a low-curve cantrip. You kind of empty the hand, and then you draw at an opportune time. I think Dystopia is okay, especially at helping us beat Step Links, but the amount of white permanents that he has is actually relatively low. Or, sorry, Spectral Links. There's just that in Exalted Angel, probably. So that's not even clear. We do have Engineered Plague. I think this might actually be our best card overall. So I'm going to begin by siding those in, and then we're going to consider other things. In terms of what's bad, it's a mid-range mirror, so I'm assuming we just kind of want to get rid of some of our weaker discard effects. I'm not trying to probably 2-for-1 myself very much with Unmask, so why don't we cut those? And I think I could lose, like, Cabal Therapy, Dark Ring. I don't know if I'm supposed to cut red. I'm going to play a couple Furnaces. I think that's a pretty good setup. All in all, I'm a fan. Ensnaring Bridge, like, that's the only thing I'm really not sure of how to rate here. On the one hand, he has a lot of small creatures that pump. They can attack under the bridge and then pump after the attack is declared. On the other hand, is my hand realistically going to have much in it almost ever? Probably not. He's going to mull. I've got a really balanced hand. If anything, it's probably a little better than the one we opened with before, but it's similar in that there's no obvious turn 1 play that's totally guaranteed. It's just Cabal Therapy or Swamp Pass, right? And there's the Writ into T1 Spectre. Woo! Things just got a lot worse. I love it, Fjord. I love it, man. All right. I think I'm supposed to play Furnace. Start attacking the graveyard for whatever that's worth. I don't want, in the face of this repeated discard we're about to suffer, I don't want to risk whiffing with Therapy. Especially because he mulled, it's that much less likely to hit. And there it goes in the graveyard anyway. Perfect. Okay. We've got a Duress. Fascinating. So we were going to obviously play Chain of Smog. But then he gets to smog us right back, and we don't get to smog him back, or it doesn't matter if we do more accurately. So I'm definitely going to cast Duress here. Another Hypno. Bruh. Okay. It's going to be a tough one to beat. And then we're just going to say go. Engineered Plague's going to beat the Nantuko Shade, but these Spectres are going to wreak havoc. He's going to ritual out the Spectre just to save a life. What a play. That actually allows us to... We're going to exile here, draw a card. I want a random card in hand to protect from the random discard on Engineered Plague, because that's the card I think we are supposed to keep, if we can. Oh, and also to pump, of course. That's even better. So down goes Bottomless Pit. Engineered Plague lives. Going full Deadguy aggro. Exactly, Fjord. Alright, I think we do play Plague here. I need to side an Ensnaring Bridge next time, if he takes us to G3. We're still quite likely to die to these Spectres. Oh my goodness. I mean, everything in our hand is pretty bad. I'm going to get rid of Plague Spitter. I think the damage is likelier to finish us off than to do anything, but obviously we just lose everything regardless. Ooh! Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, that's a good draw, I'm not going to lie. I still don't think we're in a good spot. But a part of me did consider naming Spectre just to shrink them, but I figured the Shade pumping is worse for us because we kind of need him to break off the top anyway. And if he's not breaking, then the pump doesn't matter as much, but if he is breaking, then we're good. Okay, we're drawing out, guys. Potentially. So we can attack with Factory, but we take one if that happens, so I'm not gonna. Because Cabal Pit is rough. But Cabal Pit actually has Threshold, too. So we can kill both of these things. 7 or more in the graveyard. We do have Threshold, so let's just say go. Alright, can we make the stand at 4? With a couple things shrunk by the shades. We begin the counterattack. Mishra's Factory, go, go. Swamp is actually a pretty good draw there. What's this? Start racing. We'll still be on 3 lands once we sack the pit. Just wanted to make sure that's not sorcery speed only. Remember, I'm brand new to this format. I don't have second nature knowledge of everything. Down he goes. Now don't drop a bomb, please, Fjord. Have mercy. Notably, at some point, we can activate Factory and then Therapy something away. I don't know what we're afraid of. I'm just going to keep my resources and keep my clock for now. Curse Scroll, a good draw. All right, we will gain 2. Curse Scroll is great for board control, too, in this spot against this deck. Do we get the rack down, or do we... I think we get the rack down. Obviously, we can't activate it this turn. But I think that's better than potentially losing this to discard. Swamp is a good one. Alright, we're draw dead with a Dark Writ. The rack not doing any damage yet. Now we have no way to Therapy, so I'm a little worried. Alright, so yeah, we just... Writ in response to the... Or we scroll in response to the Duress, obviously. Naming Ritual. And then we cast it just to be cool. Yeah, it was pretty clear he drew some discard, possible removal as well, but... I don't know if playing that land is right in the face of rack, but we'll see. I don't know if playing our swamp is right in the face of more discard. Because if we can compel him to cast it to check the hand, the rat gets better. So I think I'm holding this swamp. If it was a utility land, I'd likely play it. Uh-oh. I don't like the look of this. Huh. Interesting. Tapping out, and then not. Is it maybe... Is it Exalted Angel that he thought cost 5? That's the only real... Yeah, that's the only real thought I have here. I don't need to do this in response. I was just talking myself into a bad play. Obviously, we're supposed to let this resolve and then hold that up. I don't think it'll change much. Yeah, Knight of Stromgald. I mean, it kind of does, because now we're probably compelled to kill that next turn. But either way, we're in a pretty good spot. Double scroll. Good redundancy against a disenchant, but I think the disenchant would maybe... I mean, Rack is just as bad now. Alright, is this Exalted Angel? I sure hope not. I think it is. It's 4 or 5. So... It's going to start gaining life, going to start killing us real quick. He's so close to dead, but not quite dead enough. So we draw Wasteland. Then we play it, but we're 1 mana short, obviously, of activating again for the upkeep Rack kill, which would be sweet. I'm just hoping he doesn't draw another Exalted Angel. I'm not going to Wasteland. This way we can activate twice next turn. I guess that's the play. Man, this doesn't get much closer, does it? Alright, I mean, we're just going for it. Alright, does the Rack finish you, Fjord? GG's, man. Those were amazing games. Wow, that was intense. It probably felt more intense for me. You know, I'm cognizant of the fact that I'm Pox and I'm stopping people from playing to a degree, but he really played this one. He had the T1. He was Poxing us. Full Deadguy aggro, like you said. T1 Spectre, laying out the beats. Exalted Angel to make the stand at the end. He top-decked pretty badly for a period of time, though. That's really undeniable. We had some flooding too, but with Curse Scroll we put the flooding to good use, and it actually ended up being just enough to get there, it looks like. Also some good top decks. The second Engineered Plague was pretty sweet, slowing down the clock. We'd be dead without it, right? Or it'd be pretty darn close. GG's, Fjord. GG's, my friend. Hello, my friends. It is round 2. GG, bud. We're against the notorious, the great Cat Loin. He's taking the play. He's GG die rolling us, but little does he know we have 3 lands and 4 1-drops, and 2 of the lands are utility. Let's go. It's a nice hand, I would say, in the blind. It's not like the very top end of hands, but it's quite good. And it's not the blind either. We know we are against the solution, the kind of American aggro control deck. It's more control, right? Ooh, Dark Ritual. Yeah, we're still just going to duress. But Ritual could really help us dump out the hand. Alright, Meddling Mage, which is going to be a blind name. Exalted Angel. Late game card, we've got Decree of Justice and Plowshares. I think I'm supposed to actually take Decree. Generally, we don't care that much about Plow. We'll be able to get it out of the hand, presumably one way or another, as long as our deck functions. Island was the draw for turn, I suppose. Now, does he name Innocent Blood here? He has my list. He's naming Bottomless Pit. That's fair enough. Alright, another swamp. That makes our ritual quite a bit worse. Not that that's a terrible thing. It can beat a mana leak still. So I still don't think I care about the Plow enough to name it with Cabal Therapy. I guess we'll name Exalted Angel. Yep. And then we'll get the factory down. Cast a Cursed Scroll, say go. With Scroll around, drawing that 4th land just always feels alright. Flooded Strand, Mage Kraken in for 2. So not representing red. Alright, we're going to get the Wasteland down. Not sure if we're supposed to attack into that Plow. I'm going to say no. I think this is the highest value play. We're going to flip a coin and name Swamp. Hope we win the flip. Got it. Woo! The non-deterministic Cursed Scroll activation. You love to see it. Still got a 50-50 shot if we want to do that again. Seems like he's pretty flooded by the way he's so swiftly passing through turns, but I could be wrong. I think Funeral Charm here is fine. Okay, down goes Plow. And then we might as well make sure the scroll hits, right? he could technically counter this, and then he would kind of time walk us with a scroll activation, but it's really just fine. I think now we've basically confirmed to him that we only have swamps on hand. With that sequencing, that's the only thing that makes any kind of sense. Alright, he's got 2 unknowns in hand. Alright, double scroll, little flood insurance. Maybe a little, main deck disenchant insurance as well. Those are some beauteous basics. Mirage, Odyssey, Mirage. And we're getting iced. The wasteland becomes the Iceland. Important. Really not sure how this matchup is supposed to go. I'm pretty sure Permission's pretty good against Pox. How the creatures line up is interesting, I'll say. But I just don't know enough about the format yet to speak with any kind of authority on what matchups are like. Wow, Chain of Smog, rather. So if we just main phase it, we're still playing around Mana Leak. And if it... yeah. Yeah, okay. So we'll main phase it. Shields down on Counterspell. We can even activate Scroll in response if he turns it back on us. Seems like that was a pretty good draw. We are kind of clocking. Obviously be a knockout draw if we had like a rack down. Tanking over the decision a little bit. Plowshares and Mana Leak. I value this 6th land drop enough to not care about main phasing this effect. Factor Fiction, end-step Factor Fiction, GG, alright. So, Meddling Mage, Mother of Runes. I mean, both of those can get tagged by the scrolls. Fire and Ice, it's just kind of a cantrip at this point. Mana Leak, pretty bad. So, like, we're giving him resources either way. But I don't really care so much how they're split up. Guess we'll do it like that. It's definitely good for him either way, but yeah, he just scoops to that. Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, Cursed Scroll, some insane board control there. So, I didn't side in Bridges in the previous match against Fjord. That actually seems Like, it could have got me there, and it could be relevant here. It's worse here, I think, because they have a better late game, like, card selection and top decking, maybe. Definitely card selection than Deadguy does, which could punish me for stalling the game. Also, Meddling Mage can strand cards in hand. Dystopia's a thought. Once again, Engineered Plague might just be our best card. It's only going to outright kill Mother of Runes, but between that, I mean, that prospect alone is pretty good. There's some shared types, I think 2 different angels and 2 different humans, if I'm not mistaken. Mostly, I think our main deck's quite fine. So I'm probably just going to do 2 Plagues, and I think on the draw, maybe cutting Dark Rituals against the Permission deck is fine. There's obviously a double-edged sword there, right? On the one hand, you can still get it under basically all their permission by going T1 Ritual, Pit, or whatever. On the other hand, you get 2 for 1. It's a bad top deck. That can cut either way. I think I want, like, basically all my discards to stay in. There's so much that I feel alright about trimming 1 or 2, but I think it's fine. So minimalist sideboarding, we'll see how it goes. One lander, we cut 2 Dark Rituals, we see 1 in the opener. This hand's great. We can turn 1 Plague Spitter against a Mother of Runes. Or we can just go Duress and then kind of dump the hand. He took them all to 5. Oh boy. That's unlucky, man. GG. So we could go Ritual, Duress, Rack. I don't think that's correct. It might be. I mean, what do I know? I'm just going to Duress, though. Can't really go wrong. We get the only spell in hand. Wow. Big yikes. I mean, with 2 racks, I'm just pretty much fine losing 1 to potential permission, even though I'd prefer not to. Curse Scroll. Alright, so 3 plus 2 is 5. We can dump the whole hand. Might as well. We get a Fact or Fiction. My goodness. What a turn. What a progression. Sheesh. You really can't ask for better than this, my friends. Obviously, we feel bad for a guy who's just got no agency at the moment. Deeply unlucky with them all. Then we're not drawing. Pit rack moment. Jeez. Well, I guess that's that. Rack's gonna do that to you a lot of the time. Yeah. Nothing much more to say about that one. Just, like you said, GG, RNG. Alright, my friends. Good luck, have fun, GG die roll. I think we've lost both previous die rolls. We're against the mighty Mirabito, a wonderful fellow. And we're going to try to rack him out as we have thus far. This hand is solid. It's a definite keep. We know we're against Goblins. I don't know his exact list. I don't know if there's variants of Goblins or whatever. The only thing that sucks about this is Duress might whiff, but Plague Spitter seems disgusting, so I'm going to keep it. We've obviously got Rack, we've got Functionality. We'll at least see the contents of his hand with this Duress. Yep, that is a big old whiff. GG, bud. So, triple land, including Port and Wasteland. Goblin Lackey, Gem Palm Incinerator, Siege Gang Commander. You gotta cool it, man. You gotta cool it with this stuff. Well, that's brutal. Well, all we can do is play the Rack, and we're about to get lackied. And by lackied, I mean Siege Gang Commander's coming down. On the other hand, Plague Spitter is going to clean up the entire board besides the Commander next turn. So, it is what it is. Nothing we can do about it. I'm just trying not to get wastelanded, so I play the Swamp. Wah wah. It's pretty nuts. At least we got these Plague Spitters, otherwise that would basically be game. Oh no, he's got Port to tap us down. I didn't even notice. That's pretty insane. I probably mentioned it, but I was kind of tunnel visioning on what was about to happen to me at the hands of the Goblins. I didn't even think about the lands themselves. Alright, well, we're going to go ahead and wasteland the Port. Which is not a winning line against the Goblin Lackey, obviously. But we've just got to try to stall for Plague Spitter. Alright, his wasteland, much better than a second Port. Let's see if he's got anyone else to play. I mean, this could work out for us. Hopefully he just puts another 1/1 down. Nope, it's a Ringleader. That's the worst possible. Oof. Outcome, we've got Matron, we've got Fanatic. Alright, Steven, just dump out the hand. Now there's no Skirk Prospector. I think that's the one. I'm having the black art, the blacked out art thing happen, so apologies for that. Alright, we still have to play Plague Spitter. We still wipe a lot of the board. And then I guess it gives him a chance to misplay, basically, so that's kind of cool. I'm for the Goblin Lackey in Modern, why not? Can't be blocked. Seems good. GG, bud. Alright, what a difference a lackey makes. And a lack of removal. But we've got Engineered Plague, which is obviously the best card. Seems like all the time. Basically always the best card in our sideboard. Maybe we should have a third in here. Ensnaring Bridge seems good. Duress was a big old fail there. I'm probably cool with other forms of discard, especially if we are considering cutting all 3 copies of Duress. We've got Color Hate for the wrong color. The only other thing, as far as I know, that could see play is Phyrexian Furnace. And that's just merely as a cantrip. And again, it's the type of thing where it's like the cantrip at instant speed is much better against your own effects, basically, if nothing else. I'm pretty scared, though. Like, I think I can take both post-side games, but it's not going to be easy. Alright, so that's probably the cleanest swap that we can realistically hope for. 4 Duress, 2 Plague, 2 Bridge. I think that is a lock. The only things that Duress might hit, he just showed us Hearth Charm, and I'm assuming that there's, like, sideboarding disenchant effects naturalized, because that's what I've seen. That's what I think green is for. He showed us Wooded Foothills, so it's probably not a mono-red deck, but you never know. So we have Blackmail, 2 Therapy. I mean, we Unmask. We have ways to continue attacking the hand, right? Honestly, post-side, this actually looks kind of good. I don't know if that's completely off base. Yeah, I won't bother with Phyrexian Furnace. I'm just going to run it like this. No fear. No fear. Stick to the main deck plan. Oh my god, this hand is nuts if Wasteland was a swamp. I mean, take your pick of T1 plays, plus an Innocent Blood to back it up, but we gotta throw it back. Wah, wah, wah. Alright, this one has Engineered Plague and Bottomless Pit. And Cabal Therapy, it's a good 7. I'm gonna regret having to bottom a card here, but I think we should. But I don't know what to bottom. I think it's probably... I'm going to bottom a swamp. It's greedy, but I'm going to do it. And I'm actually not going to T1 Ritual. I'm going to T1 Therapy. Naming Naturalize. And this could go very poorly in a few different ways. We blind name Naturalize? Let's go. Let the record state I don't know what his exact list is, but that hit at least. He's just screen sniping. Alright. Well, unfortunately, nothing dies outright to Plague. But we do have Innocent Blood. I should have probably just bottomed the Ritual. But I was thinking I had to have an out to T1 Lackey. Whatever. This is obviously something. Something very good. It's just not like the perfect curve out, but what is, right? But what is? Alright, not playing his utility lands yet. Cabal Therapy, nice. Got a name ring leader here, right? Okay, he drew another port. That's actually real obnoxious. Using that's fine there. Bottomless Pit might get stuck in our hand for a while, though. So 2 ports, a Wasteland. And War Chief off the top. Big yikes. Man, that's a tough one. Give me a land. No? Okay, but we'll take a Funeral Charm. That's a cost reducer, so we're supposed to main phase this, I'm sure. Nice draw, nice draw. We're about to get ported, though. If nothing else. Which is why it would be so sweet to have the Bottomless Pit down working on his hand, but... the need to maul, I think, took away our best shot at that. while also getting everything else out. I'll definitely take land drops, especially basic lands. That's a good draw. No complaints. Alright, he's got 2 unknowns. Pile driver swinging in for a big fat goose egg. Yeah, we just got to keep making land drops, basically. For a little while. Long enough for our plague to continue slowing him down and for us to, like, land a pit. Start turning the corner. Cursed Scroll, if we ever hit another land, is going to be great. That's instant speed. It can play around port, control the board like a beast. We'll play an Innocent Blood. Seems alright. I guess we just want him to draw X1s. We don't really want him to draw too many more lands, and obviously we don't want him to draw answers to Engineered Plague. He can't cast Naturalize right now, but... Alright, Dark Ritual. That's a draw. Let's go Bottomless Pit. Alright, now anything can happen, my friends. But what's he got? Cycling? Or... Yeah, sure enough, cycling. Collar of the Claw? That is some spice. The elves and goblins really help each other out. There's a ringleader, dang it. He gets a pile driver and a war chief, getting all the X2s. It's definitely pretty decent. Bottomless Pit gonna put some work in, though. Hopefully. Plague Spitter, what a draw! What a draw. Holy moly. Ooh, you know what? We could have Cabal Therapied with that. I might have been advised to consider that. Huh. Well, that's good enough. He just scoops. But, yeah. That was an interesting thought, because it dies right away. It kills the thing, but I don't know if I would have ended up doing it had I actually seen it in time to think about it. In any case, having seen what we've seen, we know that Naturalize is in there. I don't think we saw any other surprises, so maybe Duress that tiny bit better. But at the same time, what is it better than? Like, I still think a slowish card on the draw like Chain of Smog is still actually kind of good. Especially because he's going to be holding cards in hand, maybe against Plague, maybe because he's porting us, whatever. I don't know if a red has more, like, instant speed artifact destruction, or just non-creature artifact destruction that he's got. I have no idea. So yeah, like, I don't think Duress is better than Blackmail, Therapy, Ritual, Charm, Blood, Scroll, Rack, Chain, Plague, Unmask, Spitter, Pit, or Bridge. Neither is Phyrexian Furnace. Obviously, neither is strictly worse than anything, but overall, let's put our trust in the good old main deck stuff, and we've got a hand we're keeping. We can kill a Lackey T1, or we can go T1 Pit, T1 Plague Spitter. Oh, you best believe we're killing that Lackey. If only we had the Ritual into Plague. But we don't have Plague in hand. So I think I'm supposed to Ritual out Bottomless Pit, and then also play a Cursed Scroll. Then we've got the Hardcast Plague Spitters for backup. Just hope we don't lose our Mishra's Factory to the random discard and then also fail to draw a land. That would be the real downside of this play. Nice, okay. I mean, we're losing something good no matter what, obviously, but... Yeah, we're just, like, going full tilt boogie here. Don't know if it was necessarily optimal, but... Ringleader whiffing! Oh my god. Bra moment. Alright, so I think I'm supposed to scroll. I mean, why not? Get a wasteland out of the hand. All right, that's the match. It might actually technically be better to like draw for turn, because right, worst case scenario you can scroll and see what happens, but I could kind of sense that OP was kind of feeling locked out, wanting to go through the turns a little more quickly. I hate being in like a deterministic spot, or one that's almost deterministic and agonizing over those little decisions, especially when we're new and we're just playing for fun. But there you go, my friends. Got swarmed G1 by the Goblins, but a sweet comeback post-side on the back of some really strong 3-drops and indeed Curse Scroll. Really, really good. Okay, friends, so that was our debut with Pit Rack, and my goodness, was it powerful. So I have to say, I think that I was on the better side of variance in probably all 3 matchups. I also don't know how to rate the matchups. Here are my thoughts on it. So I'm thinking, okay, we have like a representative from every major archetype. We have a mid-range opponent. We have a go-wide tribal aggro opponent. That can grind as well. And we also have a control deck that can kind of turn sideways. So, you know, the solution especially does not neatly fit completely into the control category, but it's got plenty of permission, so we're testing kind of the waters against every major archetype, really. And I don't know if it was just the draws or the variance, maybe a little bit of both. It seemed like Pox has a lot of good matchups, and that takes me back to the observation I made at the beginning of the, at the end of the deck tech at the beginning of the video, which is that when I started looking at lists in this format, the first thing that I said, all right, I'm going to kind of stake my claim on this, and I'm probably going to be prepared to be wrong, be missing something, but it seems to me that Pox is really, really powerful. That was my first observation. The matches in this mini-league bore that out, and then also the games that we've been getting in off-camera casually in the Discord from all the ones that I've tried, and all the decks that I've faced. Right now, Pox is like the most powerful. I keep thinking I just must be like drawing really well and getting really lucky, and I'm sure to an extent that is true, but I also think the deck is very, very strong. So, obviously, we were the beneficiary of opponents mulling, of some poor top decks in places. The deck that didn't really mull or necessarily top deck all that poorly were the Goblins, which is something that kind of had me afraid a little bit of the go-wide strategy to begin with, but we were lucky enough to see Plague Spitter and or Engineered Plague in all 3 games, and that is definitely the difference maker. If you don't have those cards, you're probably not going to keep up with a good Goblins progression, trying to 1-for-1 them, especially game 1 where like Duress can whiff and you can draw too many discard spells after the hands are already mostly or completely empty. So I don't know really what to conclude from that. I'd actually be curious to hear in the comments below what decks are good against Pucks? I've been just thinking of my limited knowledge of the format. I don't really know. Maybe Enchantress is tough. You can't interact with enchantments. They generate a lot of value. Of course, Dystopia seems good there, but maybe that only carries you so far. They can answer it. We can't answer their stuff necessarily once it hits the field. I wonder if, like, just white decks that play a lot of enchantment hate and artifact hate are good, generally. I know there's some color hate in white as well. That might be relevant against a mono black deck. But yeah, you guys will have to tell me. So once again, my first impression of the format with all the decks that I was interested in, I think Pox is really good, and nothing I have seen so far has dissuaded me. So thanks to the guys for some really good games. I am mindful of the fact that it's not always the most fun to play against a Pox deck, so thank you for being good sports. I personally don't mind it as much as the average person seems to, but I definitely get it. I get how it can be a little bit rough, but boy, is it fun to play. The deck is totally beautiful, totally great, seems perfectly viable to me, so thank you all for tuning in. Thanks for supporting the content, and let me know what you think about this deck, any modifications you would make to the list. I know not everything plays main deck Plague Spitter, but it definitely earned its spot here. There's lots of other things you can do as always. I look forward to your thoughts, and I look forward to seeing you for the next video. Until then, my friends, take care, and I will talk to you soon.